And welcome back to MDriven. So this is the fourth video in the series where I take on to build a SaaS system called TakeCareMobile, which is an area that I have very little experience in. So I'm going to use AI to guide me for all know-how, and we will see how that turns out. And this is actually quite overdue, this fourth part. The third part was done 4 to 5 weeks ago. But this is normal when you're building something, because you're far from the planned launch date, and there's always more important things that happens, and you sort of lose track and sight of your project, and you start to do other things, and then all of a sudden you recall what your goals were, and you take it up again. And of course, then it's important to understand what you have historically, and this can be quite complex when it comes to code, because then you have to sort of reset your brain and set your mind into the same state as it was once you left it. And this is quite strenuous and hard. So that's where model-driven development, as we're doing here, is actually easier. I'm not sure if I can prove that it is easier, but at least that's my firm belief. So what I usually do when coming back to a project after some time is just an overview of areas that we have. So let's go through these diagrams. So this is obviously not important to the business as such. It's some technicals. It's a sync ticket, which is a pattern to get things executed at a later time. And also calendar is a technical pattern to represent time in any shape and form. But this one, diagram 1, overview, take care mobile. Well, it has the sys user, which is a technical pattern for logging in a specific user. And then we have a user which is sort of associated with a healthcare professional or multiple healthcare professionals associated with a healthcare provider company. So this would tell me that if a user works for multiple companies, it would have multiple objects like these, healthcare professional. That's that. Here is a healthcare provider company access. So this is a link object between the sys user, the logged in user, and the provider company. So what's the difference between the logged in user and the actual user? Well, this is a good strategy to keep the logged in person or the logged in object separate from the object representing the user as such, because we may want to create users ahead of time and they haven't logged in as of yet. So then we would defer the creation of the actual sys user until that user has some ticket to log in to get access to the system, and then we would tie them together in this with this link. Okay, so that's pretty much this diagram, except this one, caretaker, and that's actually the one receiving the care. And I might have thought, and the AI might have thought, that this was a good idea to name it caretaker. But as I approach this project again 4 weeks later, I'm sort of dubious about the naming, caretaker. That might be interpreted as someone as taking care as well. So what we really mean here is the patient, right? So why would we add, or at least to me, well, this is the AI's time to shine again. So what I did was to post this question just before I started the video. Is caretaker really a good name for patients? Does it not sound that someone that takes care of someone rather than someone that receives care? And it sort of agrees. You're right. Caretaker can be confusing since it often implies the person providing care rather than receiving it. In healthcare, SaaS, and industry terminology, the preferred term for the person receiving care is usually patient, or sometimes alternatives like care recipient, client, or service user. Using patient is clear, widely understood, and aligns with common healthcare language, especially when your system involves clinical or medical care. If you want a more neutral or broader term, for example, if your system also supports non-medical home care, care recipient or client can work well. Maybe care recipient would be best, because I'm thinking that taking care mobile, it's not only sick people, it's also elderly or someone that needs attention in the home. So maybe care recipient would be a better name than caretaker anyway, and might be better than patient. Care recipient. Would you like me to update your page to replace caretaker with patients, or one? Yeah, let's say we're gonna update it with Now I'm not really sure, but this is the AI's time to shine. So let's defer the decision to the AI. Caretaker seems good, but I will let you decide if patient is even better. It might be because it is its own word and not combined use a lot already. Because I'm thinking ahead when I sort of have done this and I forget about everything for some weeks and then I come back again, will I still get confused about caretaker? So I guess I'm gonna need to reject the first and then I'm gonna, okay, what it says, caretaker recipient is indeed very good choice. It's clear, respectful, and avoids the ambiguity of caretaker. The term patient is more traditionally blah, 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 blah. Since you prefer a term that stands out on its own and is already familiar to you, care recipient strikes a nice balance. It clearly identifies the person receiving care without implying clinical receiving care without clinical status or confusing them with caregivers. If you want, I can help you update your page content to consider care recipient and a brief note explaining the terminology choice for clarity. Yes, so what it offers is SaaS system for help you're building, and then we're gonna update it to be care recipient instead, I guess. Good, but that means that I would need to update my model here. So I'm gonna go for rename, and the new name is care recipient. And then it shows all the places where this is used and which would need to be updated as well. This one sets former name. I'm not going to check that one today, but it's very good to have checked once you are in a database, because when you have the database backing of your system, these names will be in the database existing as tables and columns and as etc. foreign keys, etc. And then you don't want to drop them, because if you drop them and recreate them under a new name, that will lose data. And then set former name will actually try to rename rather than drop and replace. So that's good for that. But since we are yet not in a database, we're just using XML to store the data, I'm going to do this. So now that's changed, but is it changed everywhere it's needed to be changed? That's the question. So one easy way is to actually just run the error check again to see if there are issues lurking which hasn't been properly replaced. And there was. So let's open up the editor to see where that was. It's apparently in this action here. So I don't know why, but this one wasn't replaced with care recipient, so it's still as caretaker. I'm going to change that to care recipient, like that. But then I see that this link, I'm going to rename that link separately. Let's just see if this solves the problem. So I can go here and check, or I can just save, because then it will run automatically. So that actually solved that problem. But this link is called caretaker still. So I might want to search, do I have that kind of naming a lot? Caretaker. Yeah, quite a lot. So these are all view models. So I can easily just change the name on those because they are referred to as references. So that's not a big problem. Care recipient, just copy care recipient, and then I'm going to take this one. Care recipient seeker, care recipient value store, care recipient rating document. And then there's a whole diagram. I'm going to rename that as well. And then these are actions. So I can change the name of the action. It could be down here. That, let's see if, okay, I wasn't careful enough apparently. So let's see. Yeah, so when I renamed the view models, I also broke some of the variables used in here. Actually, it's better style to not referring to the vCurrent, which is the root of this view model, the full name of the view model, because I might want to change that. So the generic way would be to just have vCurrent root, which would be the preferred way to rename this. And then there's another one. So that would have been better in the first place. Good. So there are no errors, but do I still use caretaker? a lot. There are links, so there's even a class. So this one is gonna go with rename, and I'm gonna rename this link also. So I'm gonna right click it to actually rename it and just not change the name. This attribute also rename. Good. Let's see, I'll refresh the save here. So there's this link on care recipient, points to, it's called caretaker, and I want to rename that while I'm at it, and this one as well. So this has a plural s behind it. I'm going to leave this one as well, like that. Let's see if there are any. With this action still use the caretaker, change the name, care recipient. Voila. So it's been changed everywhere, and I think this is a good, for me at least. It will make it easier for me going forward, that the care recipient is actually sort of the patient. And if I want to remember that even further, I can like go co-comment on this. Good. So that was one of the diagrams, and then I have another diagram for the care recipient itself, where it's focused on the care recipient, which has visits logs, and that points out which healthcare professional, which basically is the workers that we provide. And there's information about emergency contact, consent form, the address seems like an important thing, any feedback that this care recipient has given us, and these are the links that we renamed. So they are incident reports, if there are any. Good. And the next step would be, I think, some kind of ability to plan. Let's see. Yeah, we're gonna do a new diagram, I guess. I think that resource planning is KanBan board for planning, or maybe a chart, or maybe both. Yes, so a KanBan board for flexible drag and drop task and visit scheduling, allowing quick adjustments and status tracking. So we have a care recipient, and that, I guess we missed something here when it comes to the actual visit. So we have the healthcare professional and the care recipient, and there will be some sort of a visit. Let's also consider the times. No, that was not the one I was going for. It's more like the calendar thing. So this is focused around days, and here we have, this is basically just 24 unique hours, but yes, we will want to associate them from a day, and there's no such association today. Okay, good to know, because I think the concept of a visit is more crucial than the timing. The timing comes after, and when it comes to a KanBan board, it's more about who is visiting whom, and then a few details on, and of course why, and everything like that. You're just going to see that there's a visit node, visit log, visits assigned to visit. So we have this class already. So let's go back to our diagram and pull this one in. So I guess we need to figure out what's going to go on the x-axis of the KanBan board. At least, I guess we can have multiple KanBan boards, but one of them, the first one we're going to do, what is that going to have on the x-axis, the columns? Should it be care recipients, so that we can assign professionals to different recipients? Or should it be the whole board should be for one recipient, and then the slots would be days, maybe? I guess we will, at first, we would need for each recipient to have some sort of budget or care plan. So how many visits they, what kind of service we are going to provide to them, and how often we're going to provide that service. So maybe the first KanBan board is just a way to understand what kind of care need each recipient has, because the care need will then decide which healthcare professional that can accommodate that need, depending on competence and certificates and education, etc. Skill. I think I need to keep a set of available services that the company can offer, and then match this actual needs for care schedule to deliver the to support effective resource planning. Your system should maintain a catalog of available services that each healthcare provider company offers. These services present the core care activities that can be delivered to care recipients. So it's a service name, description, required qualification, duration, frequency, billing code, and then we can match services to care recipients. This mapping forms a basis for scheduling healthcare professionals who are qualified to deliver those services. Once care recipients' needs are matched to services, healthcare professionals with the right qualifications and availability can be assigned to deliver those services. Resource planning. Yeah, and then it just updates the text here. So I'm going to remove these things from the diagram for now. And I'm going to wipe from this to say that the service catalog and everything like that. Maybe I should wait on applying this till I have the, what's that called, the company, and this was somehow related to the professional. Yeah, okay, so that's the user thing. So if I pull this one in, I also healthcare professional that way. So these two are the same, and if I can then sort of remove this, and let's do it like this, introduce from pick model, or if I do it like that back. Let's wipe from this and see what happens. So it added basically the healthcare service. It's good. Let's keep it like that. Flip this over. So from the healthcare company, we have the care recipients, and there's some needed service that they need. And once we perform a visit to such a care recipient for a specific service need, so I guess I'm going to add a new class here and say that this actually is a link class here. And then the actual visit is not so much this as it is the service for this specific care recipient. So then we will need to maintain the list of offered services for this healthcare company. Then it becomes apparent that we need some kind of KanBan board to assign the needed services for each care recipient. Let's see how that works out. Let's see what we have kind of problems here then. Because I moved this. What's this view? Healthcare service seeker. It's good. And healthcare service value store. So these are the services which I can set up. Good. And then this one is the healthcare service document. So the visit description. Yeah, so I guess this is the one that we're going to do the KanBan board for, more or less. I'm going to remove this for now. What we have, there's a missing action for creating a new service. I'm thinking that this is not rooted, but it probably should be, because we want the search results per company, right? So let's see how we did that. I thought that we had assigned some kind of current company to point that out, but we haven't. We probably should. Maybe we can defer that to later on. Let's just make it possible to add a service, and then we want to be able to open that service in order to see it. We can do a class action for that, because it's, I guess, a good thing to be able to see it whenever we see a healthcare service. And did we have a view model for that? Maybe we had a whole thing here, but maybe that's a better way of going about this. Value stores, healthcare service value store. So here we can do the new one. And this was the action I just created. The class action shows up here. At least I don't want the billing code to be up here. This billing code and this one. So what's this service called? Let's call this post-surgery check-up. So this default representation should be, let's do one more and 30 minutes. Since I think it's hard to figure these things out myself, I'm gonna ask it for some help here based on this diagram. Resource planning, wipe some data from that diagram. Might not be perfect, because I also have the professionals and the companies, etc. already there, so might get some duplicates. But what I was hoping for was the example of services. I got 23 items. I don't know what they are. Maybe I should undo this. So I got care recipients, visits, delivered service, which is a healthcare service which wasn't set. So tell you what, I'm going to do cancel on this. I'm going to head back here and do a new diagram. I'm going to have this just temporary and say I'm bringing the service here. So this is diagram 1, heading back here. This doesn't know about diagram 1 until I reread the model. Diagram 1. This way I only get the services. Got 12 items. Let's check them. So it only returns 2 because I haven't saved yet, and this searches what's saved. Save it, and then search again. So I got these names. These were the ones that I did. This is leech therapy for existential dread, humor transplant, time travel sickness. So it's a bit funny. Preventive masnaman for Roman Empire collapsing. So now we have a few services. Good. Now I can safely delete this diagram. Deleting the diagram won't delete the classes on it. It's only the diagram as such. So to get closer to actually assigning service needs to care recipients, I am gonna have a view model rooted in healthcare company, plan service need per care recipient. And I want to use the Blazor components for this because there's a KanBan board already there, or a way to do a KanBan board. So in order to make sure that this always is rendered with Blazor, I'm going to set the tag value Blazor on this. So we might as well add information about what the company name is. Maybe that shouldn't be editable like this. Maybe it should be static. That we can say just company, so that we know that I'm going to add placing containers to this, so that we get a little bit more control over how things displayed on screen. And heading over to assets, because what I wanted to do, first you're going to see what kind of assets I've already made use of, the tiny MC, but now I want to, so this is the one I'm thinking about, the pivot chart, which is easily made into a KanBan board looking UI. So I'm going to use this one for the application. That means that I get it here. Then I also have the usage instructions set on a placing container. Under this, add list views, one or many, where the outer placing container. So what we want here is we want all the care recipients. We also want the offered services, but of course we don't want them rendered like this. We want them rendered as the KanBan. We're gonna get to that, but I think we also want this object because that's the actual cell in the, or the card in the KanBan board, so to speak, and how we're gonna get to those. But in short, it's all the healthcare provider companies' services, then up to the care service need from that one. So when we navigate from here, we can go straight here, but we want to go there, and that kind of navigation to it will get the name of this inner link, or the link role name. We want to call that service need, so we can go straight there, and from this down to here we can actually call it service need there as well. So if we check this in the overview by double clicking it like this, we can see that care recipient service need has an inner link called from healthcare service we have service need, and from care recipient service need, and from this one it's called needed services. So this is the inner link name. That's now with the plural S, but we may actually want to call that without the plural S in order to avoid confusion, because it's only one from here. So then we call this care recipient instead on the inner, or the inner link name, and on this one the inner link name should probably be just service. And if I now check this, it's called healthcare service without a plural S, and this is called care recipient. But if I were to look from this end, care recipient, the link object is represented like this, and going straight past it back to the healthcare services, then we still have the plural S, and in the other way also the plural S. It's only when dealing with the link object as such that we have these inner link names and link role names. Good. So we call this one healthcare service. No, this one is plan service. Okay. So I'm going to drag this one in here in order to find it easily. And from here, I'm going to add the third nesting, which I guess actually I'm going to pick from model. because I'm this, and maybe I go to all of these, and from there go to all of these, and then add that one. So these are the objects. This is somehow the header. This is somehow the value store, which we can always get new services, because it's only the definition of a service, so these need to be available so I can start dragging them. And this is the actual implementation of a service or a service need at one care recipient. So the way I'm going to go about this is to make these list views as I do with having them as placing containers, saying that the outer list is something that has multiple rows and the inner list is just one row, like this. But as the instruction said here, I should set it on placing container and add list views. So this one should go on the outer placing container. It's this one. I'm going to add the tag value here. So what it didn't say, and I need to fix that, because I guess this is needs to have the component tag on this placing container, this one, and then this one is going to be on the out. Then it says that the outer on each list view should have the ignore value. I'm not sure why. So just going to make sure that we have these tag values available. So this level should have the ignore, and then these lower levels will be the actual cards. And I also must ensure that I can navigate to this one. So from the caretaker company, we're going to have a action to come here. And what the usage instructions said also is that we need to have numbers returned in certain, in order for that it to. So what's the X number for this? Guess it's the recurrent root, and then all the care recipients that we have in this company off from the one, because that would mean that we get one unique column per care recipient. What's the y-axis? I should say that since these are going to be headers, we can keep this to 0. So this one should be like a list to the far left, and should show all the services on top of each other. So I'm going to do offered services here, and on the x-axis, I guess we can say 0 to just get them to the left. So when it comes to a specific care recipient service need, that should be placed in the y-axis. We need to find the healthcare service for the y-axis, and for the x-axis, it's actually the index of the care recipient service need for the specific care recipient. And now we might have an issue with our offered services aren't actually associated to company 1, right? Because if we go here, we actually don't have an ability to set the company which controls this. So I guess we want to fix that. We can simply add a nested single link with setter to the offering company. Maybe I'm going to lift this one up here. That means that we can say that this one is for company 1, and make this also for company 1. So we put plenty of these for company 1, and I'm going to use that for testing. And we go back. At least we see things here. What it said in the instruction, that we should make these not visible. So let's follow that advice. Right, so we if we were to check the HTML for this, we get sort of cards for those, which is great. I guess the other problem we have is that our care recipient doesn't have an assigned company either. So we're going to fix that by single link with a setter to the healthcare provider company. It was already here apparently, but I'm going to move up here. How I know it was already there, it says company 2, so let's see. So it was already there. So I can just undo, and then I'm going to pull this one up, this one over here. And then I can say that this one is also company 1, and this is also company 1. Right, so now I seem to get first some services and then some caretakers, but I wanted the caretakers to go over here. What's up with that? So maybe I want to offset the recipients 1, maybe even 2 columns, depending on if this starts 0 or 1. So now I got Alan Turing over here and Marie Curie over here. These seems really off. That might be because it's not really 0 based, it's 1 based. In that case, all the services should be in the X and .2 like this. Okay, so whenever I add another care recipient, they will end up here, and another care or service, they will end up here. And this is where the service needs should go. You can start by giving these better default string representations, so I don't have to string name, full name. And I don't really want the header on these, so I can remove the presentation. And then they shouldn't be edit boxes, they should be static, set them as static. And they should probably have some kind of background. Let's see how it looks now after I save this. Yeah, now we get the problem that text boxes take as much room as they want. But we're gonna have on this whole placing container, we can have style. Let's see what kind of style. Header, and then activate it for placing container, and saying that we're gonna have a border, and we're gonna have a fill color background, and the stroke, we're gonna have black because we always need black, almost black. It's good. And then we will be able to find this style in self VM styles. Pick the pivot header. So those are over there, but we want them on this one as well. Let's just fake one care recipient service need initially, so we see where these go. We can do that the debugger, and I'm gonna reread the model so that we have the latest data. And from let's take this service. The service need is empty because we don't have a care recipient on this, so we can search for a care recipient. So ideally what we want to do is to, in this link, sort of add this post-surgery shakeup. We can drag it like that. Then that will mean that we have some tainted objects that we're going to need to save. Then it might be a little tough for this one to reload, but if we save this, right, this one ends up in the corner. That's because we have that null index based when we now know that it probably should be +1, and it should also be +2 when it comes to for both, actually, because the first position both in X and Y are taken by the header end. So now that ends up over here, and that's one service need object. And if we do a new style pivot card and activate that on placing container, and do a border and some border radius, and take the fill color to white and the stroke color to black. Wouldn't have changed anything because I still need to apply the style. This particular, so it's self VM and the styles like that. So now the next step is to make these so that we can drag and drop things. And let's go back and see what it said. So the ones that we want to be able to drag should have this tag value. I'm not sure what this means actually. Since I didn't fully understand the instructions in the README file, the usage instructions, I decided to start another MDriven designer and go to assets and merge in this pivot example. And then I got all these model things, but in there I found thing with view model board. And this actually made it clear that it should be yet another placing container that has this drag drop. And then we should have the allow drop or allow drag on it to get that working. So that was a good hint, and sometimes that's all you need. Yeah, even on this service, we want to be able to drag that onto the board. And then we're going to do another placing container, which we're going to put everything else within. And I guess we make ourselves a favor if we move the outer style to this inner one. Why? Well, when it comes to drag and drop, that involves mouse clicks, and if the color is transparent, it's not necessarily so that the mouse is caught, I think. So we need to be wary of to have a background color so that it's actually caught. And now I can follow the instruction better, adding the, make sure that there's no trailing things. That, and also on this one, that, and also move the style from this one to the inner one. And the instructions always also said that there should be some data, drop, allow drag. Speaking of that, we want to be able to drag to the head as well. So I'm going to do the same thing here, make it not visible. And some of these we want to be able to drag. Let's put drag on all of them for now. Having saved and heading back to the application, I can now drag things like this, which is, I guess, exactly what I was going for. Can't drag that one. I can drag this one, but this one seems, maybe it's because it's an edit control that itself takes a lot of attention to make it static instead, for now at least. No, this one's not fine. So what's the difference? There's a trailing space, not good. All right, this doesn't look good, but we could control that by having maximum size on the healthcare service row. Say that that can be sort of spills over. No, I'd overflow like that, but seems excessively short, 50 like that. So what's going to be presented on this card is probably what kind of service is required. It's obvious that it's Marie that needs the service, but it's not obvious which service it is. So instead of just the default representation, we're going to follow this to the link healthcare service and have the representation of that instead. And a string is not really something we need. So I'm going to remove the presentation tag for that. So the next step is to be able to grab one of these and putting it on Alan Turing to create a new service need. So it expects accept drop and a variable vdrag. So if something is dropped here, which is this one, expects an action. So we're going to create one of those, accept drop. And it also expects a variable available vdrag nesting name, and I assume that it is the one that's being dragged. So care recipient service need. No, healthcare service. And that's going to be a service. So when this accept drop action is actually received, we assume that we can find this one. And we're going to go on the current care recipient. For that, we're going to do add. No, we're going to follow the link to needed services. Then we can add. So whenever we drag a human transplant to Alan Turing, a new object is created for us. That's exactly what we were going for. We're going to meal and check up to Marie Curie as well. So this is good. Of course, we need to work on this styling to see that we cover this one. Should definitely grow. All right. So we're going to stop there for now. It took longer than I thought, but I should have thought of getting the working example to better understand how the board works. But this is, I think, will be a good way to see the data. So thank you for now.